Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of A Little Jaded. I'm Jade Zalewski, joined as always with my co-host, Joanna Serrano.
Hi guys, I'm really excited to be here today. We're here with Mia Giovina. She's amazing. She is a young singer-songwriter who pretty much rose to fame on her TikTok account at Bad Girl Mimi, where she has over 170,000 followers, which is amazing. And in the past 2 years, Mia's released three original singles, including her debut single Sirens, which when that dropped, I was listening to it on repeat. It was great. If you haven't heard it, go listen to it. And we've always been a fan of you here at Jaded, and you were in our Jaded Summer Festival in 2021. So we always love to have you. And yeah, everybody welcome Mia Giovina.
Hey!
Thank you so much for being here. We're so excited.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. So to start off with our first question, like I said before, you have a really big presence on TikTok, and a lot of people probably mainly know you from that, but we want to kind of talk about what came before TikTok, so how you got here today. So if you want to maybe elaborate on your journey and experience as an artist, especially before TikTok blew up for you.
Yeah, so I mean, I always say like I can't really remember like a specific moment where I realized that I loved music or that, I wanted to like music was like something I wanted to do in life or that it was something important because I it's just always been such a big part of me since before I can remember. When I was little, like I would always do like the little talent shows that my elementary school would have, and I would like it would be a really like huge deal. Like my family would come to see me, and I would like dress up as much as I could, and it was always a thing. And then I got to middle school and I discovered the drama club and I discovered musical theater, and I was like, this is cool, this is awesome. And so I started doing the shows there, and then I did shows all throughout high school. And it for a little bit it was always like it seemed like musical theater was kind of going to be the direction I wanted to go in life. And then like halfway through high school, I started posting little covers of, popular songs on an Instagram account. And I kind of just like discovered my love for like the industry and like mainstream music, I guess. And yeah, so I went hard on that Instagram account and I posted covers on there as often as I could. Probably when I should have been, studying or doing my homework or whatever, I was recording videos and posting them on Instagram. But yeah, I think that like halfway through high school, I kind of wanted to divert from the musical theater scene and go into, pop, I guess. And I started performing out at coffee shops. And there was a coffee shop that's like 5 minutes away from my house that I would go to every Wednesday night. And my dad would play piano for me. And it would be like very chaotic. He would get home from work at like 5 o'clock. The open mic would be at 6. And I would say, hey, can you learn this song on the piano for me right now? He'd be like, okay.
Patient.
Yeah. And so I would do that. And then I started getting gigs performing out at like bars and restaurants. And that was kind of like my first job. That's how I, worked. And then I graduated from high school, and everyone was kind of on me about where I was going to go to school, what I was going to do. And I, like dropped it on them. I said, hey, you guys, I don't think I want to go to school. I want to really try and pursue music full time. And everyone thought I was crazy. My parents, they got on board later, but they were a little hesitant. My guidance counselor was like, what do you mean? My teachers were a little like, oh. My friends, I remember I didn't tell my friends that I wasn't going to school until like September of what would have been my freshman year. I was like, hey, by the way, not going to school. And from there, I just kind of really started to like spend all of my time doing music. And then when the pandemic kind of first started and we were in quarantine, it really like it kind of was almost like a wake up call for me, because I think I had kind of been taking it easy for that first year. And then quarantine happened and there was literally nothing to do. And, like my brothers were home, but they were in classes, and all of my friends that I knew, like they spent all of their time on Zoom classes. and I was just sitting at home literally with nothing to do. And so I really had no other choice but to kind of like just completely hone in on music. And so I created like little spreadsheets for myself where I would make sure that I did like 45 minutes of guitar practice, an hour of piano practice, and spend an hour songwriting and post one TikTok and post one Instagram and whatever it was. And I just really kind of like went for it, and I really started to, I think, see results in like my guitar playing, my piano playing. I started doing like vocal exercises every day, and I was still posting on Instagram at the time. And then I don't even remember how I did it. I think the first TikTok that I posted kind of came about because I was on YouTube and I looked up isolated vocals of Harry Styles. And I found a video of his vocals of Cherry, of his song Cherry. And I started playing piano to it, and I was like, oh, this is cool. It kind of feels like I'm accompanying Harry Styles. And then I was like, let me just throw those vocals into Logic. And so I did, and I added my own piano, I added my own strings, added my own vocals. And I just decided to post it on TikTok with really no expectations because at the time it was like still very dance oriented. And I thought it was really like strictly a dancing app. So I kind of just posted on there just for fun, just to see what would happen, not expecting anything from it. And then all of a sudden, people were watching my video and people were commenting on it, asking me to do other songs and try other Harry Styles songs and saying they loved this and they wanted to hear more. And so from there, it was kind of just like TikTok was just like my world. And it really, I think it kind of just helped me to like grow as an artist because I was, doing a new rewrite or trying a new cover, like recording it, writing it, posting it almost every single day. And yeah, the rest was kind of just history. And now I'm here.
Yeah, I actually remember that TikTok that you posted. I think it came up on my For You page because obviously I'm a Harry Styles fan, and I was like,
Yeah.
wait, this is
Oh,
cool.
that's awesome.
No,
Yeah, and then yeah,
definitely that's how I first knew you because that came up on my page and I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And then I liked it. And then, of course, the algorithm did its thing. Every singing video you did, it just started
Yeah.
coming up. I was like, oh my gosh, she's so talented. But the fact that I just have to say, like, kudos to you, the fact that you were like, I don't want to go to school. I want to, hone in on what I want to do. And like, you almost
Yeah.
had your own school in a way during quarantine because you had your own schedule, like that's
Yeah.
like going to an art school is like 45 minutes of
Yeah.
this, an hour of this, an hour of this. Like that takes a lot of discipline.
Yeah, exactly. And I think I kind of like had, I mean, I still have moments where I'm like, did I make the wrong decision in not going to school? But then I think of like, all of the people I've connected to, all of the opportunities I've had, and I probably wouldn't have had those had I been in Zoom classes like over quarantine. Like what really kind of kick-started the TikTok thing was that I really like just spent 24/7 doing music in quarantine, and that kind of started TikTok. So yeah, definitely it feels like it has come full circle, and I kind of have to remind myself in those moments. But
exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And speaking of your success on TikTok, you've obviously gained a lot of traction and a lot of followers from those early on videos, a lot of which, as you said, have to do with the Harry Styles finding Cherry isolated vocals and more isolated vocals like that, but also, Taylor Swift and people like that. So it's clear that you're a fan of artists as much as you are of the music that they make. So how was kind of like being relatable to other fans helpful in your success trajectory?
yeah, I mean, it was like the most helpful thing ever because I think it just kind of like it kind of gave me this automatic platform that I don't think I would have had I just started posting like original music. I think it just those fan bases that I was posting like Harry Styles, One Direction in the very beginning, and those fan bases that I'm also a part of are like the people in there are just so like passionate about those people and about that music. And so to kind of like have those people watching my videos, it was crazy because they were going like just as hard for those videos and they were just as excited about like the music that I was, posting. And it kind of just like I think that it just made it a little bit of an easier thing to settle into for me because, I had like this audience that was watching, and I would start with, kind of like a base of, a Harry Styles song or a Taylor Swift song that kind of got them interested or got me on their For You page. But then with the rewrites, I also put my own twist on it, and I put my own words, and it was just kind of like this little thing, like you serve them a little dish of like, here's this thing that you're used to and that you're familiar with and but also look at me, look at what I can do. So it was so helpful. And it just like I connected with so many like cool people, and I was posting those videos because I just truly loved those people and I loved that music, and it was just fun for me, and I think that that just like translated to the people that were watching. And so it was just fun for me to connect with people who like loved Harry Styles and loved One Direction and Taylor Swift just as much as I did through music.
Yeah, and I feel like that feeling of, you having fun and you genuinely enjoying the music and being a fan of it is what translated, because that's what makes people want to be a fan of you, because you have that common interest already, that they're like,
Yeah.
okay, like we both like this person and you're great, so I'm gonna like you.
Right, right.
A whole
Yeah.
chain of effects.
Yes, exactly.
But we were just curious about, like, obviously so many of our like rising artists, like thinking like, like Olivia Rodrigo, Gracie Abrams, like all of these people, like they're fans of people like Harry, people like Taylor, people like the 1975, like all of these amazing bands, and that's what you grow up listening to. That's the sound you're used to and what you like. How is it, setting that aside and, taking that as inspiration, but also still finding your own sound and not getting lost in like what you know and trying to make yourself different?
Yeah, I mean, it took me a minute to kind of find my own sound because I started out doing the rewrites. I think I kind of got super comfortable with that and got super comfortable with like having the music and having the foundation of somebody else's song and then just adding my own lyrics. I
Yeah.
think I got really good at the lyrics of a song, and I kind of struggled with like, okay, how do I create a guitar track? How do I create like what chords I'm going to use? How do I create the melody? So it definitely took me a minute to, find that sound. And I think that kind of partially, I think it was almost like a little bit of a reverse thing because when I was growing up and like all throughout high school, the music that I listened to, it was like very different than the music I listen to now. It was like very much Ariana Grande, like very pop, like super super pop. And so then I think when I started to write music, once I got out of high school, I was trying to write that music, and I just don't think I don't think it resonated with who I was as an artist, but it was just what I had grown up on and what I was used to. And so I think that actually once I started to like discover artists like Phoebe Bridgers, Lizzie McAlpine, Taylor Swift, Harry Styles, like the 1975, all of those people kind of who I think are more like lyrically driven and have a little bit more of like an indie pop sense to their music. Once I started to discover that music, I think that's actually when I kind of discovered my own sound, because I think I have this thing where like I think other musicians could relate to this, where when I'm listening to new music constantly, like it helps the music in my brain to like get itself out. I think I have like these moments where I'm not really listening to music, I'm not listening to new music, and I can feel, it sounds like bizarre, but I can feel that there's like music in my head, there are songs in my head, but they just can't quite get themselves out. And then I start to listen to, new artists, new music, and it kind of just like opens this gateway for the songs to flow out. So yeah, I think that it took me a second to like figure out what realm I was in, what genre I was in. And then once I was there, I think that it was just a matter of like practice and like writing a ton of songs and figuring out which ones felt really true to me and which ones felt like, oh, this might be for another artist, or like this is a cool song, but it doesn't really resonate with like what I'm doing now or who I am now. So yeah, it was kind of just like a trial and error situation, but I feel like super confident in who I am as an artist today compared to, even 2 years ago.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I feel like I'm not a musician, so I can only explain from my perspective, but what you were saying about having the words stuck in your head and like listening to other people's words kind of helps get that out. I think it makes sense because you're, you're hearing the way they're creating their music, using the specific words that they're using, and you're like, it's just giving
Yeah.
you inspiration, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it's also, I think it kind of like the more that I listen to people, like especially I think my two biggest inspirations once I first started getting into songwriting was Lizzie McAlpine and Phoebe Bridgers. And like I said, I think that those two artists are just super lyrically driven. And I think like when you listen to new artists, especially artists like that, it kind of like you kind of have this thing of like, oh, I can write a song like that, or oh, I can say that in a song. You know what I mean? I think that for a really long time, especially when I was younger, like I hadn't experienced love, I hadn't experienced heartbreak, and I was like, so what do I have a song to write about? But then I would hear songs where people were singing about, mental health or just like, family drama or whatever, and I was like, oh, I can write things about that. Okay. And then I kind of had songs to write about. But yeah, so I think it's just like like I said, it just kind of like opens this new door in your brain, like when you're listening to new artists, and it definitely inspires you to like create your own thing.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely understand that completely, and especially about what you were saying before, like Joanna had reiterated on, is like, you feel like you have the music in your head, but it's just like you have no idea how to get it down.
Yeah.
And as like an amateur, I was like a amateur musician or whatever in high school, so I relate to like the getting out of school, going to the open mics and stuff like that. But yeah, like sometimes you wake up with one single lyric in your head, like one line, and then you're like, well, crap, now I gotta make a whole song. Like I have this one lyric and now what? Like, and
Yeah.
just like throw it in your notes. So yeah, it's like it's in there. You just have to like work on getting it out. And I'm glad that you found like the artists that you felt that you could resonate with. And it doesn't have to be about love. It can be about whatever you're currently feeling. So that's, to me, that's inspirational, and I totally understand like where
Yeah.
you're coming from.
Awesome.
Yeah, but nowadays, I mean, as we've like touched on, and as you kind of touched on in quarantine and stuff like that, many rising artists, feel an immense amount of pressure to remain active, on social media, especially on places like TikTok and stuff, and participate in trends and be constantly posting, and just this whole new wave of like, this is how you get your music discovered. But do you ever feel pressure from social media, like you need to be constantly posting in order to stay relevant? And if you do, then what's some advice that you have for other artists also struggling with this?
Yeah, I think that I definitely feel that pressure. I think that TikTok, especially, is such an amazing platform for small artists like me to, get your music out there and get it on the For You pages of the people you want it on, and to kind of like get exposed to like new people and new audiences. And I think that when it's great, it's great. And when it's not, it's really hard. I think that it can get really easy to, focus solely on numbers and views and followers. And those things are wonderful and amazing when you have them. But I think that overall, it can kind of, in my personal experience, I feel like it kind of clouds the artistic experience just because for a really long time, and I think I do it occasionally even now, like I would find myself sitting down to write a song solely for it to go viral. I would sit down and I would start to write a song and I would say, oh no, well that first line wasn't catchy enough, like people will scroll away. And then I would write another line and I would say, well, that's not relatable enough to people. Like they're not going to like the video and they're not going to relate to this song, and they're just going to scroll past. And it kind of, I think, stopped me from writing some what could have been really great songs and songs that I really loved. So yeah, I definitely feel the pressure to like keep posting on social media and like staying active to stay relevant. But at the end of the day, I think I just decided that like staying true to who I was as an artist was more important than the views and the numbers for me. So, if I go like a few days or a few weeks not posting on TikTok, it's usually because I'm writing a lot of music or I'm working on a lot of new music. So I think that I try not to get to like be so hard on myself about not posting on social media, because I know that behind the scenes I'm still working and I'm still being passionate about that. And I think that's the advice I would give to other artists, is that like as long as you're staying true to your artistry and as long as you're doing what feels right to you and feels true to you, like social media is always going to be there. And so I would say that your number one focus should be the music and should be, staying true to that.
Yeah, totally. And I feel like what's what's interesting about you is you didn't start as like I'm going to be a TikTok artist, or like, I want to be TikTok famous or something. And I
Yeah.
feel like a lot of artists who are, coming up nowadays, they see people who have this amazing success on TikTok and they're like, that's what I want to be. And so they start making music for TikTok, like you were saying, and then that's kind of their whole career. And then it's kind of hard to branch out, like, who am I without TikTok? And you were
Yeah.
already in, like, you grew up singing, you grew up in theater, you grew up already as an artist. You just used TikTok as a tool instead of as your entire career. Because like you said, you've done outside performances. It's not all for TikTok.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think that's really like that's what it's about. Like you said, like figuring out who I am without TikTok. I think that's something I kind of had to work through, because when I first started posting on TikTok, it was like every single video was like blowing up. And then as you post more and more and like as, more videos go by, it's like the viral videos aren't as frequent, they aren't as often. And I think that it like took some time for me to, you know, recognize that, hey, that's not because, I'm not working hard anymore. It's not because my music isn't good anymore. It's just, the way it is. It's with the algorithm and with the app and everything, not every single video can, be a hit. And I think especially now, like there are so many more people on TikTok than there were even 2, 3 years ago.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I said, it's just like kind of about, taking a step back from the apps and figuring out like who you are as an artist. And when that's solid and when you have that foundation, it's like nothing can really shake that.
Exactly. Like your TikTok might not always be around, but if you're an artist who's in it and loves the music and really loves what they do, your legacy will far surpass any app that comes out, and you'll use it just as a tool and a springboard. You won't use it as your entire success. So I
Yeah.
really appreciate like your outlook on that. I think it's great.
Thanks.
Yeah. And I think, obviously followers and, TikTok success, like that doesn't always translate off of the app. TikTok views and likes won't always translate to how many people are streaming your single or how many people are buying a ticket to go to your show. So, for you, you have to think about like not just what am I creating, but also you have to learn about how to create your own success outside of that, work on the business side in a way. And, a lot of our listeners are aspiring music industry professionals. Some of them might have teams, some of them might be doing this by themselves. And, they're curious about like, how do I become successful? How do I make a name for myself? So what's the most important thing that you think you've taken away from this new wave of artists and understanding the business side outside of just the creative side of things?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things that I've taken away from it is kind of that you have to be your biggest fan and be your biggest advocate. And, if you're not out there promoting your music, like who's going to? And I think that, especially as a woman in the industry, in such a male dominated industry, it's also like so, so crazy important to speak up for yourself and stand up for yourself, whether it's, in a writing session with another musician or in a business meeting with a label or whatever it is. It's like I said, you have to be your biggest advocate and you have to look out for yourself and you have to say, this is what I want. This is how I want it. And yeah, I think that's like, that kind of just encapsulates like what I've learned is like, you're your biggest fan. And I think that that's kind of just what I would like, the advice that I would give to other small artists is to not be afraid of coming across as pushy or demanding in those situations. Because I think when I first started, that was my fear. I wanted to be like very easygoing, like whatever you guys want, it's fine. Whatever happens, it's fine. But I think that as I experience more situations, it gets a little bit easier every time to recognize what I want and be able to, stand up and say, this is what I want. So yeah, I think it's just like, it's looking out for yourself. You just have to look out for yourself as much as you can.
Yeah, and that pushy thing is such a ingrained thing as like a woman
Yeah.
in the industry too. And it's so frustrating, and we support all women who are trying to get into the industry. Jaded is all
Yes.
female or female identifying, so
Yeah.
we understand. It can be hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because when you're a man, I mean, and this is not like me trying to like get up on a soapbox and stand up, but like, you see it time and time again, especially in the music industry. It's like, oh, they're bold and they're courageous and they're brave. But when a woman like, stands up for herself, it's like, oh, she's like pushy. And
Yeah, it's like it's when a woman acts like that, it's like she's hard to work with.
Yeah.
yes.
But they're
Yeah,
doing the same thing that the men are doing. So
They're like
yeah,
the
exactly.
math isn't mathing here.
it is.
Make it make sense.
Yeah. But I think that's great, It's like I definitely think it takes some time to get that confidence. And I
Mhm.
think after a while, when you start doing it for longer, then you're like, you know what? This is my career. Like you're
Yes.
not gonna let people walk all over it, because then you're not gonna be happy with where you are in like however many amount of months or years. So it's like
Yeah.
if somebody tells you, oh, you're hard to work with, I don't want to work with you, then they're obviously not the right person to work with, because they
Yeah,
don't
exactly.
respect you.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. So another question that we kind of had was for you was obviously a lot of artists this can be exhausting, is going in and walking in and telling them what you want and maybe getting some backlash for it, or ending up being like, oh, you're too pushy, or we don't want to work with you and things like that. On top of just the fact that you have to be creative and you have to feel like you're doing the most, in order to feel like you're in control of your success. So do you ever feel like slightly burnt out from all of this insane, incredible work?
Yeah, I mean, I think that like since I started posting on TikTok, like 2 or 3 years ago, whenever it was, I don't have any sense of time. I think that I've experienced like it's kind of just like, as cliche as it sounds, it's kind of just like this wave or this roller coaster where it's, one month you feel productive and you feel confident and you're on top of things and you're posting TikToks every day and you're writing new songs that you're proud of and you're making these new connections. And then the next month it's kind of like imposter syndrome. It's like, what do I have to add to like this industry? What do I have to say that somebody else hasn't said? Kind of just like getting down on yourself. So I think that I've almost found comfort in that realization of the fact that it's a roller coaster, because when I'm in those low moments or when I'm in those burnout moments, I can now, instead of thinking like, oh, what's wrong with me? Like nothing's ever going to work out again. I can kind of like recognize, like, Mia, you went through this 2 months ago. Like it's just a cycle. Like just work it out, babe. So it's kind of like when I'm in those moments, I can recognize like, okay, this is just like this passage of time, this passage of energy just working its way through. And once it's gone, we're going to be good again. So I think it's kind of like about recognizing that like you are going to have these on top of the world moments, but you also are going to have like burnout, and that's okay because you can't have either or, like you can't have one without the other. And I think that with like the burnout, it almost makes like the high moments even better. When I write a song that I'm like really really proud of, it's like it's that much better because a month ago I couldn't write a song. Or going back to like TikTok, like when I post on TikTok and a video does really well, when my videos hadn't been doing well in a couple weeks, it's like it makes it feel that much better and that much richer. So yeah, I think that I've just kind of learned to accept the burnout and know that the burnout will pass.
Yeah. Definitely. I think I've heard that from actually, I feel like a lot of musicians and even aspiring music industry professionals, like trying to work on the business side of things. It's like one day you're like, I'm the greatest ever, like, and there's nobody that can touch me. I'm just doing
It's so
everything
true.
and I'm so productive and I know everybody and I'm connected. And then the next day you're like, oh God, what did I like? This is the
Yeah,
biggest
you're like,
mistake
why
of
am
my
I
life. I'm
here?
the worst. Like,
Yeah.
like everybody hates me and I will never get a job and I'm the worst person in the music industry ever. Like,
Yeah.
and
It's
so there's
so
just
much
like it's
fun.
waves. Yeah. And
Yeah.
I like so I really appreciate that you touched on that because
Yeah.
it feels like waves
Yeah.
and the imposter syndrome is so real.
Hmm.
Like,
It makes me
Yeah.
wonder if somebody like does Harry Styles have imposter syndrome? Is he like, why am I here? I'm just a boy from a bakery. Like, you know?
Like he has to. I mean,
Yeah,
I think that I just have to believe that he does just to like get through life. You know what I
yeah.
mean? Like I just have to believe like Harry Styles is like sitting on his bedroom floor like questioning it all.
He better because I think we all are. We're all if he's human, then we all.
Yeah.
exactly. So we kind of wanted to know on that topic of burnout, in your experience in the music industry so far, have you ever gotten like a little jaded? And if so, how do you come back to yourself in the work that you so obviously love?
Yeah, I think that, I mean, kind of just like touching on my last answer, like, I think it's just about in those moments where I am feeling jaded or burnt out or whatever you want to say, like, I think it's about letting myself feel like that. And I think that the more that I am, kind of like, the more like grace that I give myself, I feel like the easier I am on myself, the sooner that that passion for, music or that, that work ethic will come back to me. I think that when I am like feeling burnt out, when I'm feeling just like drained and I try to like keep pushing, I think that's when I kind of come up with some of my worst work, I guess, or work that I'm not necessarily really proud of. But I think that when I kind of like am feeling drained and I say, you know what, let me give myself a couple days and not push it, then like once those days are up, it's like I'm itching to write a new song or I'm itching to post on TikTok or, whatever it is. So I think that it's kind of just like, it's about just like being easy on yourself and letting yourself have those moments of stagnance, I guess, like just kind of just letting, like I said, just letting that energy pass through you, just like recognize that this is just like a phase passing through you, and like I said, like by the end of it, I'm almost always like itching to get back into work. So
Yeah, that's awesome. And I mean, speaking of creating, the last time I talked to you, which is like over a month ago, you said that you had been working on some new music. So I don't know if anything is announced yet, if there's any little teasers or something that you can give for anybody who might be interested.
yeah, so I have been, I mean, like I said, I haven't been posting on TikTok as frequently as I usually do. And like I said, when that happens, that usually means I'm writing a lot of music or working on a lot of music. So I have a bunch of new songs written and recorded, and they're songs that I'm very, very proud of and that feel um, very true to me as an artist. And I think they're some of my best songs that I've written so far. So yeah, I think I have a ton of new songs in my back pocket, and now it's just kind of about finding the right time to release them out into the public. But I'm very, very excited about them, and I think people can look out for in the new year like a lot of teasing on TikTok. I definitely will be teasing a lot of new music on TikTok.
Yeah. So if anybody's not following you, where can they find you? Like all of your socials?
They can find me on pretty much any platform just by searching Mia Giovina. If you want to get specific, check out TikTok, Bad Girl Mimi. But you can find me on on Spotify, Apple Music, all of those streaming platforms just by searching Mia Giovina.
Awesome. And I mean, our whole theme of our podcast is like rising music industry professionals or people who are looking for advice. So if there are any maybe aspiring artists or maybe even artist managers or anything that are looking for advice or just want to talk to you about your experience, do they have the permission of asking you?
Absolutely. I love getting little DMs of people asking me, what my songwriting process is or how I, make connections and stuff. That's my favorite thing to talk about. So, absolutely.
Amazing. Awesome. This has been great. Thank you so much, Mia, for being here. We're super excited and we're super excited for your new stuff. Me
Yes.
personally, Siren's my jam. But awesome. Thank you so much. And this has been another episode of A Little Jaded.